What if the pressure you feel to keep going was never yours to begin with? In the last episode, we talked about what happens when your nervous system starts to wake up, when you can't ignore things the way you used to, when pushing through doesn't work the same way anymore. And for a lot of people, that's the moment everything starts to feel confusing because if you spent your whole life adapting to a certain way of being, keeping up, staying productive, holding it all together, but when your system starts to push back, it forces a different question. Not how do I keep doing this, but something deeper. Why have I been doing this at all? And this is where things begin to shift because the pressure you feel, the constant need to do more, be more, keep going, didn't come from nowhere. It was shaped, reinforced, and conditioned. And once you start to see that, you can't unsee it. Keep listening. Welcome to the Inner Magic Academy podcast. If you're loving our videos, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the Inner Magic Academy podcast. I'm your host, Peter Magic. So, in the last episode, we explored what it feels like when your nervous system starts to wake up. So, when you begin to feel more, notice more, become aware of things you were able to ignore before, and how that can feel overwhelming. Like everything has gone from being distant to suddenly being right there in your body. But what naturally follows that is something a lot of people don't expect, because once you become aware of what's happening inside you, you start to become aware of what's been shaping you, the environments, the expectations, the patterns you've been living inside of. And this is where things start to shift in a different way because it's no longer just about how you feel. It's about understanding where those patterns came from in the first place. And if you look at where we are right here, right now in the world, most of what we see playing out is a performance. People are only showing a version of themselves that they want others to see. And that is a perfect, polished version of themselves as if they've got it all together. But what's really happening underneath the surface is so many people on the planet right now are struggling. They're struggling to feel more safe and secure in their own skin. They're struggling because everything that's been asked of us, most of us are struggling to make ends meet. Most of us are just struggling to exist on the planet right now because for us who are neurodivergent, because we experience the world more in depth, we're deep thinkers, we're deep feelers, we're picking so much more up. We're picking all of the dysfunction, all of the dysregulation, we're picking up all of the stress, all of the stuff that's been deeply buried beneath the surface. We're picking all of this up and we're still being asked to do more, perform better, be this perfect version of ourselves, perfect and polished. So what's been asked of us systematically, the amount of hours that most of us are working just to make ends meet, just to exist on the planet, is absolutely ridiculous. Everything has become a performance on the planet. And I'm someone who goes to the gym, right? I go to the gym regularly, and what I see there is so many people performing. They're trying to show others this perfect image of themselves. They're trying to keep up to something, and a lot of people's identity, and I'm not judging here, a lot of people's identity is attached to just physical aspect, attached to how others see them. And so they present a version of themselves that is perfect, that is polished, that looks like they have it all together. But most people that are performing or doing this thing is they're doing this to receive something on the outside, right? They receive the validation, approval from others. And a lot of this stems from is that conditioning, is from what's been mirrored to us early on in our childhood. And a lot of that is, we're being expected to do more just to have, even just to have the basic necessities here on the planet. Most of us struggle to even afford to have a roof over our heads, right? And for us that have only known survival, being neurodivergent, a lot of us only know survival, and we just struggle to function each and every day. And we've been asked to do more, and it's almost like how much time and energy we put into whatever we're doing out there. A lot of us are in jobs that we really don't want to do. you know we notice people don't even want to be there, and people are just um masking, suppressing, holding themselves back. There's a lot of stress. People are just doing this to make ends meet, and it's getting to the point now where it's almost like if we don't choose a different path, if we don't choose to um, go within ourselves and really ask ourselves those deeper questions and what we really want out of life, out of this experience. If we don't face that, if we don't actually work towards that, then everything on the outside is going to keep us and pull us away from where we really want to be. And that's why this world is completely out of alignment. That's why people are doing so much of what they actually don't want to be doing, but they're only doing it to survive, to adapt, to fit in, to present this version of themselves as if they've got it all together. But even where I am right here, right now, in my own experience, I'm without having all of the answers and knowing where exactly this business and where the Inner Magic Academy is going to take me. I trust in my soul. I trust that having this podcast is not only an outlet, it's not only something that can help me heal, it can also help others heal. It can also help shift other people's perspectives on the planet. It can also, you know, help others on their own journey and really shift a narrative on the planet. And so people stop normalize everything that's been normalized. And where we are right here, right now, most people are struggling with mental health. Most people are struggling to keep up, and they're still pretending, because this is survival. They're still pretending as if they have it all together. But for us who are neurodivergent, we're picking up all of the stress. We're picking up all of the stuff that's been suppressed. We're picking all of this up, right? So for me, everything that I'm picking up through energy around me is very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. If I, for example, if I took myself out into nature and if I was just there by myself in nature, I'd feel so at ease and peace, because I can just sit there and just completely just not carry the weight of everything around me, because nature brings so much peace, and it doesn't carry the load of an expectation of everything that's been created artificially in this world, everything we've been asked to do to keep up, to make ends meet, to just exist on the planet, is absolutely ridiculous. And so this is what I want to share through this episode, and we're going to start getting in more deeper into this now. This is something that most people don't actually question because it feels normal in this world, right? It's what's been normalized. Achievement, productivity, doing, these weren't just encouraged, they were rewarded. You were praised for being productive, recognized for achieving, validated for doing well. And over time, that shapes something deeper. It stops being something you do and becomes who you are, not your identity, but something that feels like it. So if you're looking out in the world, everything that we're doing is becoming a performance, right? It's almost like we are in a world where we've been asked to outperform others, to be, and we're being rewarded for being those high achievers. And if you look at the people that are struggling the most, the people who feel like they can't keep up, those people who feel like they're not good enough, most of those people are actually very intelligent, very capable, and have a very deep insight and perspective on reality. But most of them can't present a version of themselves out there that is more at peace, more at ease, and then they can't perform. at a level that shows the best version of themselves, because they're constantly in survival. And when you're constantly feeling that in your nervous system, and you're constantly feeling judged for being different, having a different perspective, and if you're, think of things where things are systematically, you know, how kids have been put into a classroom, and they're expected to perform that pressure in workplaces, how you're judged for what's at a surface level. You're being rewarded. You're being rewarded for not being authentic. You're being rewarded and praised for, agreeing with others and following all of the rules and expectations and everything of being this perfect, ideal version of what that is, whatever that image is. And so many people are learning to adapt. They're not being authentic just to, achieve and get whatever it is that this world is rewarding them for, based on, achieving productivity, doing more. But really what's happening underneath the surface is, no matter how much they do, no matter how much they try and keep up, it's never enough. It's never enough. And then no matter how much they're achieving out in the world, within themselves, they never feel like it's ever enough. So they can have so many different achievements in their life. They can be praised for everything that they've done. But it's never gonna be enough. And there's always going to be something that they're going to feel like they need to do more, like they need to, it's like, and for those of us who are not where we really want to be right here, right now, we feel like we're failing. And for people who are neurodivergent and have a different perspective on reality, and struggle just to exist on the planet right now, because most of us are struggling with a dysregulated nervous system. So we struggle to present a version of ourselves out there that feels more at ease, feels more at peace, and then we struggle to then, for our energy to come from a more authentic place, or a more of a place that feels like, we can focus on whatever it is, the task at hand, or, be able to articulate something more in depth, because we can lose focus because there's so much around us that could constantly distract us. And this is what comes with ADHD, whereas we can also struggle to focus. We can also struggle because we feel a lot of anxiety. We don't feel regulated. And so what do you think we then struggle with? For example, going to a work, interview for a job. A lot of us can struggle with all of that, because where our brain is taking us and what we're picking up through that environment and what's been asked of us, we're not being given the space and the time to, to be able to show others that we're more than capable of doing the job or doing whatever it is, because we're judged on what's on paper. We're judged on so many different things. And it's not, it's very surface level. It's very superficial. And it's just where we are in this world right now. Everything has become a performance, and a lot of people's identity is attached to that, is attached to achievement, productivity, and doing more. And a lot of us feeling like we're failing in this world because we're not being rewarded, no matter how much we do. There's so much that we do, that it feels like no matter what workplace we're in, it doesn't feel like people actually care about what we're doing, or like as if we're making a difference. We're just we're looked at as robots, as if we're just expected to just churn in day out the same level, and as if we're not affected by anything else. And it's so backwards in this world. And we need to get back to the roots of what it is to actually to be human, and that is to be deeply connected. That is to be able to hold space for each other and not judge people based on what you see at a surface level, because everyone holds fears and insecurities. Everyone, to some extent, is masking and holding themselves back. It's not only things that we're doing within ourselves, it's what we feel in the environments we're in, and wherever we are. If we're feeling uneasy, it's not always coming from us. And so we're picking that up. And so when we feel like other people aren't being authentic, other people aren't holding the space, we feel like other people are judging us. They think they know who we are based on what they see in front of their eyes, based on their own programming and perception. We struggle to be fully seen, to be fully heard, to be fully understood. And so we feel like people are judging us. And so we're not then rewarded for being authentic, for telling the truth, for sharing a deeper insight and perspective, because the truth is very uncomfortable for a lot of people. And that discomfort for a lot of people, we're judged for creating that discomfort for others, for being truthful and honest. It's almost like we are punished for that. And so that's what I'm sharing here is everything's become performance, everything's become superficial, everything's, you know, most people's identity is attached to achievement, productivity, and doing more. And no matter how much people do, if they're not connected to something far deeper within themselves, it will never be enough on the outside. And because it's coming from that place, we're not going to attract what we're already worthy of, because we're not connected to something far deeper and know our own worth and value through our own energy and through our own authenticity. But when we know that, and when we then project more of that out into the world, people feel the resonance of that. There's something that speaks to somebody else. It's something far deeper. And so that's where we need to go. That's where we need to go. In this reality, we need to shift that perspective and stop expecting for us to keep up to something that's not sustainable anymore, and be more open, more honest, more authentic, even though it creates the discomfort, because that is us bringing ourselves back into alignment. And think about what that does on the planet. It mirrors something to others. It makes them face something deeper within themselves. And through this process, we start to shift what's been normalized out in the world through achievement, through productivity, through doing more. And we start to understand a deeper sense of humanity and what it's really like to be human. And that is to be more authentic, to be more honest, to not be judged based on what is playing out at a surface level, because you don't know somebody else based on that. There's so much more that is far deeper. Unless somebody gets back in touch with that and learns to then project their energy more from that place, other people are not going to see that deeper aspect of that person. And so they'll continue to be judged based on what is playing out at a surface level. And so this is what we're doing, is we're unpeeling those layers of conditioning. We're getting back to our core roots of what it is to actually be human, and that is to be imperfect. That is to mess up, to make mistakes, to say things that maybe don't align with what others believe in, but we need to stand in our truth. That's where we need to shift to on this planet. If you're liking this episode, you'll love our free masterclass, Unmask Your Relationships. Unmask Your Relationships is for anyone who craves deeper, more fulfilling relationships, especially if you're a highly sensitive person or people pleaser. In this training, you'll discover what's holding you back and learn how to actually break free from people pleasing and validation seeking. Understand why you attract certain people and situations into your life, and start to identify and transform the parts of you that hide behind your ego's mask. And this training is absolutely free. So watch it now by going to innermagicacademy.com/unmask. Without even realizing it, your value becomes tied to what you produce. If I'm doing something, I'm enough. If I'm not, I'm falling behind. And that belief doesn't always feel obvious. It sits quietly in the background, driving your behavior, shaping your decisions, creating pressure you don't always question until something shifts, until your system starts to push back. So, what we're seeing right now in the world is people are reaching breaking point, and we've come to the point where it feels like no matter how much we do, it's never going to be enough. We're never going to be rewarded, right? And if you look in the world, most of us are struggling to make ends meet. Most of us are struggling to even have a roof over our heads and have the basic necessities to exist on the planet. So it feels like no matter how much effort, productivity, no matter how we perform, it's never rewarded, right? It's never going to be enough to even just exist on the planet. So what you're seeing out there in the world, people are being rewarded for being dishonest, for, a lot of deception, a lot of really playing on the human psyche, on manipulating other people, being really good at manipulating other people and making money from that. And, I'm not here to call out any specific people, but if you're deeply connected, you already know that. You feel that through energy, and you see a lot of people out there that might be extremely wealthy, but how they're making their money is not coming from an authentic place, not coming from a place of alignment, and they're feeding off of vulnerable people on the planet. And so this is not where we want to go, right? We want to actually come back to our authentic nature and really start to share the deeper truth and focus on sharing that without speaking and calling out other people that are doing things dishonest, because we don't want to bring attention to that. We just want people to come back within themselves and start to feel that within their own system and realize when someone's not being authentic, and realize when something is coming from a place that is not coming from a place that is truthful and honest and authentic. And so we all need to come back to that, because as we do, people that are being rewarded for doing those things in the world will no longer be rewarded for that anymore, because as the collective perception shifts, as people come back to their authentic nature and be more of that out in the world, everything's going to shift. And so the people that right now are more than capable, have a beautiful vision that they want to create in the world, over the coming years, I'm telling you right here, right now, that will shift. That will shift, and those people will finally be seen and heard from not operating and doing things in the old way. That old paradigm is going to fall apart, and it is falling apart. So this is what you're seeing out in the world. People are now starting to push back even more. And so all of the conflict, all of the things that are playing out is because people have had enough with what's been asked of them in this world. It's not coming from a place that's in alignment. It's coming from a distorted place, a place of manipulation, a place, they're being rewarded from a place that actually isn't coming from a place that's in alignment, a place of a deeper truth. So this is where we are shifting to on the planet. And the more people come back to themselves, the more they feel more deeply connected to something far deeper, the more they're going to be able to, notice that on the outside. And through that, things will start to shift. Okay, so just to reiterate a lot of the things that we've just been discussing, I know I got from my little tangents, but that's okay. So this isn't just mental, it's physiological. Living in constant performance keeps your nervous system activated, always moving, always thinking ahead, always trying to keep up. Even when it looks like success on the outside, it often feels like it's exhaustion on the inside. And when you stop, your body doesn't, because it hasn't learned how to. So like I mentioned, no matter how much people do, no matter how much their their productivity, performance, whatever they're achieving on the outside, it's never going to be enough if they're not connected to something far deeper. If they're not doing it in order to receive that validation and approval and all of the rewards that they're being rewarded for, it's never going to be enough for them because it's all attached to something external, that external expectation, whatever was mirrored to them, whatever that through that conditional environment and what conditioned them will be attached to that identity, right? So their self-worth will be attached to all of that. And so many people in the world that don't have that life that they're already worthy of feel like they're failing. And for people who are neurodivergent, feel like they're constantly failing. No matter how much they do, it feels like it's never enough. And they're just struggling to exist on the planet, and they're not being rewarded for their gifts and the abilities they have because they are more deeply connected to what's out of alignment in this world, and they're mirroring that out in the world, and they're being judged for mirroring what's out of alignment, and people are continuing to to do things in the old way. And again, they're doing it because it's coming from a place of being in survival, and they're afraid of sharing a different perspective on telling the truth because they're not rewarded for that. And so this is where we need to shift from, is we need to start to slow down, and we need to start to share more deeper, honest truth that's coming from something far deeper. And we need to know that we are already worthy and enough just as we are. And it doesn't mean anything about us when we don't receive what we're already worthy of on the outside. And so that's really where we need to come back to, because that's how we shift that perception on the planet. All right, we do that within ourselves, we mirror that on the outside, and the more of us that collectively do that, it will shift what's been normalized on the planet, and that's going to shift into the new paradigm on where things are actually going to. Okay, so this is where people get confused because they think rest should feel good, but when your system is used to pressure, rest feels wrong, it feels uncomfortable and restless. So like you should be doing something, fixing something, catching up on something, because stillness was never what you were taught to value. Doing was, proving was, and earning your worth was. So that's why so many of us struggle doing nothing, right? Just taking time out for ourselves and not having to do, not having to produce, not having to perform. It feels very uncomfortable for a lot of us. The programming goes very, very deep in society, and we're not rewarded for that, right? We're not rewarded for that. And we're reminded based on what we have in our bank account, based on all the materialistic things that we have or we don't have, right? We are constantly reminded of that. And so that's why systematically things are completely unaligned, completely out of alignment. And those of us who have so much to give that is actually beautiful for this world, we're struggling the most, and we're not rewarded for that. And so that's why we need to shift that perspective and stop attaching our worth to where we are right here, right now, and what we have, what we don't have, and what we're rewarded for in the world. Because, we've got to be brave, and we've got to be courageous, and we've got to speak that deeper truth and push that what's been normalized in the world, push people outside of their comfort zone to start to shift that perspective, because it's no longer sustainable. Where people are already seeing things falling apart on the planet, and it's happening in order for this change to take place. And so it's important for us to continue to be brave and to be courageous. And even though we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle right in front of us, to have that outlet to not only express ourselves, to be creative, because we all have the ability, um, to create something beautiful out in the world, that only you have the ability to create, right? Based on your experience, based on the depth you experience this world. And yeah, it might not be instantaneous. You might not be rewarded for that. It's like me doing this podcast, right? It's like I'm not receiving anything from doing this, but I'm not doing it um because of that. I'm doing it because it's not only healing, it's also deep and meaningful, because I'm able to serve something far deeper on the planet. And what people really need on the planet is a deeper sense of connection, to feel more seen, to feel more understood, to feel more heard, to feel like people who struggle to find their voice, especially being autistic. So many autistic children struggle to find the words, and it's because they're so, overwhelmed by everything in this world. And it's very hard on top of that to find the words. And again, people are judging everything based on what's at a surface level. There's far more going on deeper beneath the surface. And there's so many gifts and abilities that so many people have on the planet that's not been acknowledged, that's not been people don't see. And what's been rewarded is, dishonesty, manipulation, doing things in a way of, that's not aligned. That's yeah, and it's completely backwards. And so we need to shift out of that on the planet. This is going to ground a lot of the things we've just been discussing. So this is where things begin to shift, and not all at once, but gradually. You start questioning the patterns, the beliefs, right? Everything that's been normalized on the planet is completely upside down, completely out of alignment. And the expectations you've been living inside of, right? This is what we've been living inside of. Everything systematically is not rewarding something far deeper, and not rewarding authenticity, not rewarding deeper truth. And so this is what we've got to do, is we've got to slowly you've got to start to begin to separate who you are from what you do. You begin to create space, and space to pause, space to reflect, space to exist without constantly proving your worth. And stop attaching your worth and your identity to what you have or what you don't have out there, your achievements, your performance, all of the things, because there's so much more going on deeper. And being neurodivergent, because the world's completely out of alignment, because there's so much suppression, there's so much, people struggle to hold space, people not being authentic, and so you're not being rewarded for being more authentic. You're not being rewarded for telling the truth. And there's so much fear and so much insecurity and so much anxiety that's playing out there. And you can struggle. You can struggle to keep up. You can struggle to, present a version of yourselves that is, it's far deeper and not constantly coming from a place of fear and insecurity and feeling disconnected, right? And so this is why we need to start to shift that perception on how we look at ourselves. We're to look at ourselves through our energy and through our authenticity, and where all of that is coming from, and stop attaching our identity to everything on the outside and whatever's being mirrored to us, and however others are treating us, judging us, means absolutely nothing about us. And when we stop attaching to that, and the more we go deeper within ourselves, the more we just be that on the outside, regardless of what we receive or don't receive on the outside, the more we continue to shift out of that, and the more we start to shift into the new paradigm where things are going. And then people will start to receive what they're already worthy of, because it's coming from a place that's more deeper and that's in alignment, and people will feel the resonance of that, and it will be your energy that will be rewarded. It will be your authenticity that will be rewarded, not where things are right now. So stop looking at everything on the outside right now because everything is falling apart and it's happening for a reason because we are shifting out of what we're in. Things won't be sustainable anymore where people are being rewarded for doing things not from that place of authenticity. I'm telling you, it's going to, their world is going to completely fall down and it's going to happen. It's going to happen for the better of humanity. And they're going to have to face that. And so this is where we are going. Um, this is where we are going as human beings. This is how we're actually evolving and coming back more into alignment from the inside out. We're coming to the end of today's episode, and I just wanted to remind you here, once you start to see it, the pressure, the constant need to keep going, the feeling that you're never quite doing enough, you can't unsee it. You start to realize how much of your life has been shaped by trying to fit into something that was never designed for you. And that's the part that shifts everything because it's no longer just about burnout or overwhelm or feeling like you can't keep up. It becomes a deeper question, a more personal one. What's actually happening to me in all of this? Because even when you begin to understand the system, even when you step back from the pressure, something can still feel heavy, like you're carrying something you can't quite explain. And that's the part most people don't talk about because it's not just external pressure anymore, it's internal. It's in your body, it's in your nervous system, it's in your energy, in the way you move through the world. And in the next episode, we're going to explore that, what it really means to feel deeply in a world that feels heavy, and why the weight you're carrying might not be all yours. Until next time, this is the Inner Magic Academy podcast, and I'm really glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode. If you enjoyed it, we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to our channel and give us a like or even a comment. It really does help so much in getting our work out there to the people who need it. We're so grateful for you being here, and we'll see you for the next episode.